Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thank you so much for being here, for allowing me to be here and to share my story. I'm Amy Thurman. I am based in Norman, Oklahoma in the US. And on April 26, 2014, I woke up in the middle of my living room floor and didn't know how I got there. I found out that I had passed out and landed on my face on the hardwood floor. 6 months later, my doctors told me that the impact from that fall sheared my brainstem, caused a traumatic brain injury, and broke my neck. So I lived with a broken neck for 10 years, went undiagnosed for 6 months. The first year after the accident, I laid flat in bed for 23 hours a day. I was completely incapacitated. I missed that entire year of my children's lives. I lost my job. I lost my sense of self-worth. I lost my identity, and I almost lost myself. It was such a miserable existence. I felt like such a burden to my family. I wanted to put us all out of our misery. And so I had a plan. I was going to swallow a handful of pills, and it was going to be easy and it was going to be painless. But before I could get to that point, my heart said to me, what if you don't have to die? What if you can make a different choice? What if you can use your experience to help other people? And so I began to fight to live with the intention of using my story to help others. And people began watching me fight my way through the medical and the disability systems and fight my way to reclaim my life as a source of strength. And they became inspired. It encouraged me to write a book about it. And in the moment, I felt like I was clawing my way out of hell. There was no way I wanted to document this. But I listened and I wrote a book about it. And it became a bestseller in 2 days and took on a life of its own. But I did not yet have the capacity to handle that level of success in my life. And so it sent me into a deep, dark place. And I began to fall apart behind the scenes. I had seen what strength had gotten me, what society's version of strength had gotten me through the 10 years of living with a neck injury, a broken neck. I had pushed my way through and I had done what society had told strong women and strong people to do. And that had gotten me far. But that wasn't working for me this time. I began falling apart and I didn't know what to do because I had this book and this story. People knew me and my reputation was about resilience and about strength and how to not give up and to push forward. But I couldn't do that. I wasn't doing that. And I began falling apart behind the scenes because what if people found out that I was falling apart, that I wasn't strong, that I wasn't resilient? What would they think? My reputation, in my mind, my reputation would be ruined. And my career would be ended. And so I kept it a secret. And then I realized, you know what? Our perception of strength is a paradox. A paradox is two things that seem to be opposite, two things that seem to cancel out each other, but that they both can be true at the same time. And I did one of the most courageous, strongest things that I have ever done in my life. And I walked myself into a mental health hospital and I asked for professional help. And that version of strength, I thought that was going to end my career, end my reputation, but it ended up doing the exact opposite. I found out that strength is not exactly what society teaches us. Strength, falling apart and asking for help, is also a great source of strength. And I learned so much from that experience. I learned that not only is medicine helpful, not only is therapy helpful, but what really saved me in that experience was someone holding space for me. Not therapy. Holding space is not therapy, it's not advice, it's not fixing. It's simply a safe place to fall apart without judgment. And so I began to realize that over 2 decades, for 2 or 3 decades, I had been holding space for people, not realizing that's what it was. But I had been doing that for a long time. And that now, through this experience, it was my turn. It was time for someone to hold space for me. And that made all of the difference. That allowed me to see the difference in strength, that strength is not what I was taught that it was. It was something far different, or it was both of those things at the same time. And so I began to learn that holding space for myself was a very powerful, strength filled thing to do. And I began learning to teach other people how to not only hold strength for other people, but to hold strength for themselves, because that's where it starts. Just like you cannot love someone else until you learn to love yourself, you can't adequately hold space for someone else until you learn to hold it for yourself. And so I created the holding space method, where I teach people how to hold space for themselves and for others. And just a quick framework of that is space, the letters SPACE. And the S is that you have to start with yourself, that it begins with yourself. You have to hold space for yourself and learn how to do that before you can do it for someone else. Do it for yourself. The P is presence, presence over performance. That holding space is all about just being present with a person and not expecting them to perform, allowing them to remove the masks and be who they are. A is for allowing. We simply allow them to be who they are and allow whatever comes up to come up. That we're not expecting anything, we're not trying to fix them, we're allowing them to be who they are. If it's rage, if it's fear, if it's tears, if it's just silence, whatever it is allowed in that space. C is for compassion. It's a judgment-free zone. And we present it in ourselves too. Remember, this applies to ourselves with holding space for ourselves too. That we show compassion, that we're not judging whatever comes up. If we rage, if that's what we need to do, then we show compassion. We allow that message to surface, because our emotions are part of our communication system and we need to allow them to serve their purpose. And then E is we exit with care, that we leave people and we leave ourselves better than we found them. And we say things like, thank you for trusting me and for allowing me to hold space for you, and making them feel loved and making yourself feel loved. When 50% of people with suicidal thoughts never tell a soul, not because they don't think people care, but because they don't think people can handle their pain. When 60% of young adults say they are struggling with loneliness, and when 80% of people say that they are more likely to share or open up and talk about things when they feel emotionally safe and not judged, holding space is what humanity needs right now. It is a powerful human element that we have never been taught and that we need so badly right now. And so I encourage you to, first of all, look at strength in a different way, that falling apart is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It is the most strong thing that I have ever done. And it allowed me to see a whole different side of my life and to take on a whole new direction in my life. And also that holding space is powerful, and that you can do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself before you do it for others. And it's a very, very powerful thing. And I thank you again for this opportunity to share my story and to talk about this work that I'm doing and these lessons that I've learned and the powerful impact that it's having in the world.
Wow, Amy, what an incredible story. My gosh.
Thank you.
You know, I remember my grandmother used to say that the universe will never give us challenges we can't overcome. That if you overcome that challenge, you become a teacher.
Mm,
You went through everything you went through for a reason. And now you're sharing this amazing story and empowering others to reframe and look at life a little bit differently. So,
absolutely.
what was the emotional impact of losing your physical abilities so suddenly?
I found my sense of self-worth in what I could do. And I think society teaches us that, especially as women, that how much we can accomplish and how much we can do, that's where we are worthy. And that's where we find our sense of value. And all of that was stripped away from me in the blink of an eye. And so I had to learn the hard way. My teenage son at the time said, people in your state, either they let situations like this destroy them or they let it make them stronger. And you're letting it make you stronger. So I allowed it to teach me to go inside, the things that I was looking for are not external to me. They're all inside of me. And that's where I was able to find my hero within and learn to become the person that I am now.
Wow. So how did you redefine your sense of self, after this incident? It wasn't just the physical. This would have affected you psychologically as well, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And like I said, I almost swallowed a handful of pills at the beginning during those six months when the doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and I had a broken neck and no one knew it. And I was so focused on trying to get back to the person that I was before the accident, because I could literally do nothing that I could before the accident. And so my thinking was very negative. All I was focused on was what I couldn't do. And my
Mhm.
husband said to me, "Why don't you try focusing on something that you can do? Figure out something that you can do and focus on that." And so the only thing I could come up with, because I literally was laying flat in bed, cover over my eyes, earplugs in my ears, barely able to speak above a whisper. And I said, just load up something that's motivational and I'll put some earphones in and turn it down really low so my brain could handle it. And I came across a poem, The Wisdom of Rumi. And this poem changed my life. And it's where I got the name of my business. And it goes like this: Ye who seek God apart, that which you seek thou art. If you wish to seek the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space. And that spoke to me on such a deep level. And it's where I started that journey of learning that every answer I seek can be found within. I was looking in the wrong place the entire time. The hero that I was waiting for to come rescue me was found in my reflection in the mirror and had been there the whole time. And so it was a very, very powerful realization.
So you are literally forced to be still and paralyzed for you to go inwards to see who you really were. So
Yes.
what inspired you to write Finding My Hero Within?
It really was my community. I
Mm.
just started documenting because I had an opportunity to go to a brain center, but I couldn't afford it. And so I did a GoFundMe at the time, and
Right.
people donated and covered that entire 2-week trip. And so I felt
Wow.
like it was part of my responsibility to let them see what their money was going for. And so I began documenting everything that was happening. And so people were watching, and then more people started joining, and more people started watching. And they began saying, "You're an inspiration. I can't believe you're going through all of this and you're handling it so well," all of that. And they just kept saying, "You need to put this in a book. Like, people can learn a lot from what you've been through." And I just resisted it at first because I thought, who wants to hear my story? Like, when you're living it, it's totally different than when you're on the outside watching it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting for me to go back and read my book now, because I just think, wow, I can't believe I went through all of that. When you're living it, you're trying
Easy.
to survive in the moment. So it really
Mm.
was my community who encouraged me to write that book, that first one.
So why do you believe visibility is a feminist strategy?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Why do you believe that visibility is a feminist strategy?
Hmm. Women tend to see into people's hearts more than men do. Women are more emotional and more emotionally connected. And I feel like they want to get things done, or the masculine is wanting to get things done. And the feminine is more nurturing and more caring. And I feel like the visibility piece is a much more feminine part, because we are trying to connect. We are trying to use what we have been through to help other people. And, one of my taglines is authentically Amy, that just being authentic is part of the journey and helping other people. And I feel like even though society teaches us not to be authentic, to put on the happy face and pretend like everything's fine,
Yeah.
that women tend to let that mask down a little bit more than men do. And so I would say that's why it's probably considered a more feminine aspect.
I love it. So, can you explain the Polish the Mirror framework and how it helps others?
Absolutely. You know, the and in that first book, I talked a little bit about my Polish the Mirror framework, and people kept saying, "I want you to teach us how to do that." And so I created then a more extensive framework. It's just 3 steps, and the first step is all about self-discovery, because what I found is that most of the time we know more about other people than we know about ourselves, that we tend to pour into other people, especially as women. We tend to pour into other people more than we pour into ourselves, and as I said in my story, we can't do that effectively. We have to start with ourselves. And so the
Mm.
first step is self-discovery. We learn more about ourselves than we probably want to know. The second step is it's self-love or self-value. Depending on the audience, I will say one or the other. Some people self-love is off limits, but they're the same, self-value. Because once you learn about yourself, who you are, then you learn about, well, what's there to love about me? You know,
Mm.
there are things that you love about yourself, but you don't know them until you discover them through that self-discovery process. So it's self-discovery, self-value, or self-love. And then the third step is self-alignment, or what I call soul love. That this is what I was able to find during that 10-year journey of fighting my way to reclaiming my life, that there
Mm.
is a step beyond self-love that I call soul love, that most people don't even know exists. And or it is self-alignment, that living in your authentic version of yourself, living who you are at your core. And the premise of Polish the Mirror is removing all of the things that are on your mirror that are preventing you from seeing yourself clearly. So it's
Mm.
simply a process of removing everything that is not you, so that the real you can shine through, that the real you, the who you are at your core, can come
Yeah.
to the surface and shine through and be who you're supposed to be and serve the purpose that you came here to serve.
Wow, that's just incredible.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
incredible. And so simple yet complicated.
Yes.
It's quite a complex concept to wrap one's head around. So, how did success bring about a new wave of challenges for you?
Oh, I like to say that I'm just a gal who grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. Fame and notoriety don't motivate me. I'm about people's hearts. I really am a heart-centered person who just wants to help people. Like, I just want to be a force for good in the world. And I never did any of what I'm doing for fame or notoriety or to be considered a celebrity. Yet that's what people refer to me as. And it really, really, it upset me in a way that, because that was not who I was, that was not who I was trying to become. I
Yeah,
wanted to just be who I am. I just wanted to be Amy. I didn't want to have this label put on me. And when people started referring to me as a celebrity, I really didn't know how to take that, because that's not what I wanted for my life, you know? And
yeah,
a friend said to me, "You need to understand that that's not a label that you gave yourself, that what you're doing is positively impacting lives in a way that is allowing people to put that label on you, and it's a good thing." And so I really had to rethink that whole strategy and that whole concept, but it really was upsetting to me because I'm just such an authentic person, and I didn't
mm,
want to ever come across as shooting for fame or shooting for notoriety, if that makes sense.
yeah, that does make sense. That makes a lot of sense. Wow. So, what was the turning point that made you seek mental health support?
Mm. The whole issue with all of this success that I really hadn't, I had just gone through this 10 years of rediscovering who I was. I had gone through the self value and the self alignment and the soul love piece. And so I was so focused on myself and getting myself better and learning more about myself and putting more of myself out there, that
Yes.
it was just this. it was coming from the outside in. Like, I was so used to giving, 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 but now it
Yeah.
was coming from the outside in, and I didn't have the capacity to receive it. I hadn't learned how to open myself up enough to receive that kind of success yet. It was just something that I hadn't learned how to do yet. And so I began to push it away and push it away because I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know how to handle it. And it caused a lot of issues in my physical life, in my marriage. I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped eating. I stopped bathing. I stopped changing clothes because
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. I would just sit there and stare at the wall. I literally would sit in the floor. It's going to make me emotional.
Wow.
I would sit in the floor and just stare at the wall because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to a friend and I said, I think I need help. And she began to do some, so sorry.
No, no, don't apologize.
She began to do some research for me, took my
Mhm.
insurance, she did all the legwork for me. And she said, this is a place that takes your insurance. If you go there and talk to them, they can help you. And so it was really, really a scary thing for me. Like I said, I thought this decision was going to ruin my career, ruin my reputation if I walked myself into a mental health hospital and asked for help. And I didn't really think they would keep me because I wasn't suicidal. I just was not functioning.
Yeah, yeah.
But they could see the level that I was at, that I wasn't caring for myself at all. And they said, we need to keep you for a week. And that was really a gift. It really did become a gift. And I didn't say this in my story, but after I got out of the mental health hospital, I began talking about what happened openly on all of my social medias. I began
Wow.
sharing that I just spent a week in the mental health hospital, and I began sharing openly how this is a measure of strength, that it's not a weakness,
Your
that it's
weakness.
something that, right, that it's something that we need to be talking about. And the response from that has been overwhelming. It was totally the opposite of what I expected. It really, really took my career to a different trajectory just by simply talking about something like that that people can relate to, but no one's talking about. It was
Yeah,
really
so
powerful.
authenticity really came through.
Yes.
Wow. So, how do you define holding space and why is it so important?
We are more connected than ever through our devices, but we
Mm,
are more disconnected than ever because of our devices. And I
yeah.
really feel like we don't have a mental health issue. I feel like we have a presence issue,
Mm,
that people are, like I said in the statistics, afraid of sharing openly because they're going to be judged.
yeah. Mm,
And what those that I have held space for, every one of them so far have said, I told you something that I've never told anyone else. I can't believe I said that. And then they
wow.
talk about how they will message me later and say how it has prevented them, how it has helped them stop being stuck. That they
Mm,
feel like they have
wow.
been stuck in their life and couldn't get past they didn't know why they were stuck. But it
Yeah.
ended up being because they weren't sharing, they weren't talking about these things that were clogging up their emotional system and clogging up, that were weighing heavily on there, but they weren't talking about it. And so just holding space and allowing a safe place for people to fall apart is
Mm,
a very healthy, very much needed thing in our world. I think it's what humanity needs right now. It's very powerful.
that is so true. So, what myths about resilience do you wish we could dismantle?
Oh, wow. Oh, there's so many things about resilience, that we're taught and we're expected to be. And resilience, what society teaches us about resilience is that we don't give up, we keep pushing, that we bounce back, and that we just keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I know about resilience that I think most people don't understand is that resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward from where you were before.
Mhm.
So, in order to bounce forward, you have to go backwards. Like, think about a slingshot. Like
Yes.
resilience is moving further than you were to begin with. And so I relate it to a rubber band. When you first get a rubber band and you pull it, it's kind of tight. It doesn't go very far. But the
Yes.
more you begin to stretch it, the further it goes and the further it goes. But it's because you're stretching it. And there's that stretching piece that people miss in resilience. There are challenges, there are hardships, there are all kinds of difficult things that are required to be resilient. And I think we miss that part of it. And it's so important. And so, what I say, because people are like, wait, if you pull the rubber band too far, it's going to break and it's going to
Yes.
snap and it's going to hurt. And so I say, yes, that's exactly why I use that analogy, because
Mhm.
you have to know where your limit is and where to stop pushing so that it doesn't break, and use your toolbox to prevent it from breaking. So, yeah, I think that's the piece that people are missing about resilience.
I love that. So, how do you balance being an inspiration while still honoring your own healing process?
It is definitely a challenge. I have learned throughout the process, and this learning came not by choice, but
Yeah.
because my body forced me to learn it again, just like when I broke my neck. That those times when I really focus on self-care, there are times where I will take a few weeks at a time and not even worry about work, not even worry about anything, that I'm doing. I will
Mm.
just focus on what brings me joy and what makes me feel good. And I will tell you, like, I feel like this is a secret that people are missing, that those times when I'm simply solely focused on self-care are the
Mhm.
most abundant, the most productive times that I have in my life. When I'm not even thinking about how to accomplish anything or how to get things done, I'm simply focused on taking care of myself. And it all just happens. Like things just start falling in my lap. It's pretty wild and amazing.
I love it. I love it. And I love the way you are living your life now. So, let's
It's
talk a little bit about vulnerability. What role has vulnerability played in your personal and professional life?
That's an interesting question for me because I am so authentic.
Mm.
I am one of these. When I was a child, if my parents told me something, I would just go tell my friends. Like, if I wasn't supposed to say anything, I would just tell them. Like, it's just who I am. I can't keep a secret. And that is, it's a benefit. It's a good thing because I am just who I am. Whatever you see, that's what you get. I'm not someone different in different situations. I'm just me. But at the same time, when I have a family and I'm sharing things, I have learned to be respectful when my story or when things involve other people. But there have been times where I have overstepped that line unintentionally, and someone has gotten offended or hurt because I shared something that maybe they didn't really want to be shared. And so I
Right.
really have to think about, it is not just about me. This is not just about me because I so
Mm.
want to help people. Like that's what I'm all about, is just sharing things that I learned to help other people. But I have to remember that there are other people involved and I need to be respectful of that. And so it is kind of, I do have to balance it and really weigh the things that I share, and being vulnerable.
Mm. Mm. I love that.
I
Now,
have learned, I will add to that. I apologize for interrupting you. I will add to that my ability to be vulnerable has served as a permission slip for others to embrace their vulnerability as well. So what I'm finding is, as vulnerable as I am, it really helps other people open up and be more vulnerable because they see me doing it. So I am basically a permission slip for others to do the same.
yeah, you're being a living embodiment of vulnerability.
Yes.
So, how do you approach helping others without carrying their emotional weight?
That's, oh, such a hard thing. I used to be an educator and a social worker. And
Mhm.
I was in social work for about 4 years, and I feel like that really prepared me for what I'm doing now,
Right.
because I would take it home with me, and I, would leave my phone on all the time, and my clients would call me during the night with problems, and I would answer every time. And I learned that that is just not possible. You can't be healthy and do that. And so I began to set boundaries back
Yes.
then. And that has just followed me into what I'm doing now to set those healthy boundaries. And even so much, and I keep building on that and keep building on that so much now that I really, really guard who has access to me. And that
Wow.
was really hard at first because I thought, I'm here to help people. That's what I do. But I
Mhm.
also learned that I have to protect my energy, that I
Yeah.
can't let just anybody have access to my energy, and that I really have to protect that. And so that is something that I have recently learned, and I'm continuing to learn to protect that and to really guard my time and my energy.
Yeah, that's important. It's a lesson that most women need to learn as well.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, what message could you give to someone who's currently in the depth of burnout?
Oh gosh, have I been there before? Um, I would say that it's I think it's a typical thing for women, and that society not encourages that, but that it encourages us to seek our validation in that way that encourages burnout, that leads to burnout, you know? And so I feel like recognizing it is the first step, understanding that you feel burned out and that something needs to change. And that what I have learned is that there is a cycle to everything that we're doing. Depression has a cycle, anxiety has a cycle, everything has a cycle. And if you want to change something, you have to break that cycle. So it's figuring out a way to change something about what you always do to break the cycle. And so burnout could be just taking 30 minutes for yourself to do something, take a bath, take a walk, get your nails done. You know, it doesn't have to be something physical. It can be sitting in meditation or sitting in prayer, just something to break that cycle. And you don't have to start, go overboard at first. Just start small with something that breaks the cycle. And once you break the cycle, then things begin to go in a different way. They begin to move and flow in a different direction, and then it just begins to happen naturally once you
Yeah.
start to take care of yourself and to value yourself more. Then it starts to change everything. Just a little bitty step at a time is all it takes, really.
I love that. So, what practices keep you grounded today?
I have a whole routine. I call it a routine that I do before I even set my feet on the floor in the morning, before I even get out of bed. I do a meditation, I do a visualization, I do some energy clearing, I do emotional clearing. I do all of these things in my bed. Then I sit up and I begin stretching my body to get it ready, to let it
Mhm.
know that we're awake now. We're going to start moving. So I don't just wake up, grab my phone, hop out of bed, which is I think
Right.
most people do. I wake up, I lay there, I do my whole routine, and then I stretch, and then I put my feet on the floor, and then I begin my day. And so my body knows, all right, we're ready for this. Let's do it. And it starts with the mind. Like it has to. I have to do it in the morning because it affects my whole day. If I miss that routine time in the morning, then I just don't feel grounded. I don't feel as much as of myself the whole day. So it
I
is a really powerful thing.
Wow. We've got Nigel chiming in Europe. Nigel, thank you for listening in. Nigel is saying self-protection is very important for all of us. That is so, so true. We
Absolutely.
really
Hi, Nigel. Thank you for hopping in here. I love that.
Now, I'm going to end the podcast with two questions. And it's a bit of a thought experiment. And the first one, I'm going to teleport you back to the younger you. This young woman who found herself in the middle of a medical crisis. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. You didn't even know how to get back from it. If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be? Just in case there is somebody who's in a bed right now, at home, on her back or his back, trying to figure this out, what would you have wanted somebody to have said to you at that time?
I definitely would want to want someone to say to me, don't fight it, stop fighting it, because there is a purpose. And as much as I would not have wanted to hear that at the time, that, people say everything happens for a reason. I know in my life that I feel like the universe had been trying to get my attention before this, and I wasn't listening because I had so much to do. I had so much to accomplish. And so it had to literally almost take me out to get my attention. And so I would say, don't fight against it. Look for the lesson, look for what it's there to teach you and what you can gain from it, because it can be such a beautiful gift. And in a convoluted kind of way, when I hear people share tragic stories of things that have happened to people, inside I do like a little happy dance, because I think this can become such a gift for this person. And so I would say to allow it to be a gift. Don't look at it as a tragedy. Look at it as a gift that it can become. And again, it's not something that you want to hear. I understand that. But as a person who is on the other side now, if I had been able to do that back then, oh man, what a powerful thing it would have been for me. And so just don't give up, keep going, and look for the good. There is always good in everything if you look for it.
Yeah, no, I've learned to reframe and just tell myself that this is happening for me, not against me. And although I
Absolutely.
can't see it while I'm in the middle of it, it becomes clearer with time. So now
Yes.
I'll teleport you into the future, and we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you and have a conversation with her. And she's sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her great-grandchildren, whoever's with you at the end, right? If we could go into the future to meet this wise woman who's led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to thank her. I'm going to hug her. I'm going to be so grateful for her guidance and for her wisdom and the foundation that she laid all along this path and this journey that I'm on, and how she just didn't give up. And even though I can be quirky and silly and hard to deal with sometimes because I am so heart-centered and headstrong, that just kept going and learning and gaining and evolving and growing, that she never stopped. I can see her in that rocking chair. She never stopped evolving and growing and learning, because she always wanted to get better and always wanted to do whatever it took to be able to be a force for good in the world and to become what she was supposed to be in this world. Just, I would just thank her.
Absolutely beautiful. Amy, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with our community today. And thank
Absolutely.
everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you know someone who is struggling to get out of bed right now, who is going through a physical, psychological challenge and they need help, we have Amy's website at the bottom of the screen. Please reach out and get the support that you need. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Amy, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and And together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Absolutely wonderful, Amy. Thank you so